ridiculous notion is for either one of you all to have the audacity to believe that you understand what the experience has to be.
I have to object to that.
But you just said
I cannot talk about it because I am not part of a group. I am a sentient human being. You're right. There's two ways you cannot understand something. One is to be too far from it. We're too far from it. We can't see like you can. One is to be too close to something. And then sometimes you can't see it accurately either.
Bill Maher just torched the bridge to the left and lit a cigar with the flames. He hasn't penned a formal betrayal letter yet, but his scorched earth monologues and brutal takedowns of Democratic darlings say it all. The gloves are off. In one jaw-dropping clash, Maher obliterated a guest for race-baiting with verbal napalm so fierce it left the crowd stunned into silence. It wasn't just a debate, it was a demolition. Smash that like button and subscribe now, because the political firestorms are only getting hotter.
I noticed that at the Super Bowl, there, for the first time in I think 4 years now, the Trump administration is making them take away "end racism," which they had written in the end zone, right? And
when why? It just seems silly. I mean,
to do it or not to do it?
Why get rid of it?
Oh, I could tell you why.
I know, but it's just like
because it was stupid to begin with.
Yeah, but
let me ask you, who is it for? And if you're a racist and you see "end racism" in the end zone, you're going to stop being a racist?
That's leftist media mouthpiece Tara Palmery, dishing out the woke left's favorite dish, hollow virtue signaling, dressed up as policy and sprinkled with #glitter. She tossed around buzzwords like party favors, equity, inclusion, justice, hoping the noise would drown out the lack of substance. But Bill Maher wasn't having it. He sliced through the fluff with one precise question that left her argument stripped to the bone. She froze, no slick deflection, no clever dodge. Just the stunned silence of someone watching their talking points disintegrate on contact with reality. And isn't that the real issue? The modern left keeps confusing moral theater with meaningful progress. They chant, they hashtag, they march, but when the conversation turns to crime, borders, inflation, or national security, poof, gone like smoke. Maher's pushback wasn't just a moment, it was a wake-up call. Because slogans don't solve real-world problems. Rhetoric without action is just political background noise. And sometimes, you've got to ask, do these activists ever stop to realize that catchy chants don't pay rent, don't keep streets safe, and sure as hell don't help everyday Americans trying to survive?
But the sentiment is basically like, don't be a...
But I think it's an effort to nag us during a football game about something that doesn't change anything or anything. If I'm not a racist and I see it, it doesn't matter. And if I am a racist, it's going to make me more of a racist.
Like, I think if you write, don't be an on the end zone, everybody will agree with that.
Guess what? The "end racism" slogans didn't vanish because some politician snapped his fingers. They disappeared because corporate America finally woke up from its woke coma. For nearly a decade, CEOs and PR teams bowed like desperate courtiers, plastering rainbow flags and empty slogans on everything in sight, not to solve real problems, but to survive the outrage Olympics. It wasn't activism. It was fear in a hashtag costume. But here's the twist, the mob lost its roar. The culture war cooled. And now, corporations are quietly peeling off the virtue signals, shelving performative politics, and crawling back to business as usual. Translation? Pandering is out. Spineless branding is over. The woke wave broke, and the tide is heading out fast.
Under the previous administration, we would have inquiries. We would request information. We would want cabinet secretaries and assistant secretaries and deputy secretaries to come before committee. We would send letter after letter after letter and get no response. The Biden administration operated literally in the shadows. They would not tell you anything that was going on. At least Donald Trump puts it out in the litany of orders that come out that day. Here's what we're doing today. We're going into the Department of Justice. We are taking these attorneys and they are under supervisory review, or however they choose to phrase it. You knew nothing that was going on in Joe Biden's presidency.
Funny how the loudest defenders of democracy are the ones hiding the most. What kind of democracy runs on blackout curtains and smoke machines? With these folks, transparency is a bedtime story. Headlines are scripted. Press conferences look more like Broadway auditions. And when they do toss the public a crumb of information, it's been polished, spun, and dipped in PR gloss. Zoom in on the Democrats, and the truth goes fuzzy, like a bad photo on purpose. Behind the curtain? It's all smoke, mirrors, and political theater. Now stack that up against Trump. Say what you will, but the man built his brand on doing what he said, loudly. Democrats? They've perfected the art of promising everything and delivering nothing. Just look at Biden. He pledged to uphold the law, even if it meant holding his own son accountable. But when things got real, he pulled strings instead. That's not leadership. That's textbook hypocrisy.
Bunch of privileged mean girls complaining about privilege and trying to make fetch happen. What a shocker that the people who see everything through the lens of race and see their election loss as a result of racism and sexism. Yes, if only we weren't so irredeemably unenlightened, we would have elected a black president by now. Oh, what, we did? Oh, right, and then re-elected him. Maybe you missed it because it wasn't on TikTok.
Bill Maher didn't let up, not for a second. He went full throttle on Palmieri, torching her for playing the left's favorite game, ignoring reality and running every issue through the worn-out filters of race and gender. It's the same old script the DNC keeps dusting off: divide people by labels, stir the pot with identity politics, and hope no one notices there's zero substance underneath. But America's changed the channel. Voters are wide awake, and the DNC's strategy is looking more like a bad sitcom stuck on loop. The tragedy? They just won't stop. Instead of adapting, they're clinging to the same tired narratives that once sparked fire, but now expose just how empty their playbook really is. Maher's takedown only made it clearer. Obsessing over identity instead of ideas isn't bold, it's bankrupt. And the clock's ticking on that losing game.
And sexism, Hillary got 3 million more votes than Trump, which in a normal country would be called a victory. It wasn't 21st century sexism that prevented a woman from being president. It was the Electoral College. Democrats run for office as if the voters don't live here, as if they don't go to the grocery store and Starbucks and the office, but they do. They live here.
Democrats love to trot out the same tired excuse: America didn't embrace Kamala Harris or Hillary Clinton because of sexism. It's their go-to shield, an easy out to avoid owning their failures. But as Bill Maher bluntly put it, that was never the issue. Voters didn't say no because they were women. They said no because the Democratic Party keeps ignoring the problems that actually matter. While everyday Americans worry about skyrocketing prices, open borders, rising crime, and a crumbling trust in government, Democrats are busy policing pronouns, scolding language, and turning every discussion into a lecture on race or gender. Maher's jab hits because it's dead on. People aren't turned off by female candidates, they're turned off by a party obsessed with identity theater over real-world solutions. And that's exactly why Democrats are bleeding support.
And they actually see women and people of color, and it doesn't look like some patriarchal racist nightmare. Kamala spent 100 days telling voters, I know it feels like crime and illegal immigration are bad, but your feelings, look at this chart. Yes, there's a lot to not like already about the new regime, but maybe take 1 week to ask what you did wrong. The basis for Democratic campaigns has become, we're the smart people. That we know from the get-go.
This has always been the Democrats' fatal flaw. They walk into every room acting like the smartest people in it. Challenge their worldview? You're ignorant. Question their agenda? You're backward. Refuse to recite their ideology word for word? Clearly, you must be uneducated. It's a smugness that drips from every speech, every debate stage, every polished soundbite. And layered on top is the moral grandstanding, preaching as if they've trademarked virtue itself. It's not just condescending. It's exhausting. That holier-than-thou routine hasn't elevated the conversation, it's split the country in two. Instead of persuading, they shame. Instead of building bridges, they burn them. And now? They're left with a party that talks big about inclusivity, while practicing exclusion with surgical precision.
All you have to do is ask my father, who literally fought in the Orangeburg Massacre, right? Who helped found SNCC, who marched with Marion Barry and Stokely Carmichael and Martin Luther King, and the list goes on and on and on. And he will tell you today that he feels like this country's in 1954. And so if you want to talk about somebody...
But that doesn't mean it is.
Well,
you said he feels that way. That's ridiculous. That is.
The moment you refuse to fall in line with their agenda, Democrats slap you with their favorite label, a backward-thinking relic who wants to drag America into the Stone Age. It's their go-to scare tactic, paint every dissenter as a caveman. But here's the inconvenient truth, America has changed. Dramatically. Women aren't just voting, they're leading. They sit in Congress, run billion-dollar companies, and yes, even run for president. We've already had our first female vice president, a woman of color, no less. That alone shatters the dusty narratives the left keeps recycling. America isn't stuck in the 1960s. It's breaking barriers, opening doors once thought sealed shut. But instead of celebrating that progress, the left clings to outdated victimhood politics, pretending nothing has changed. It's a tired script. And it no longer fits the reality of this country.
I'm talking about systemic racism. And most times...
Has it gotten worse since 1960?
Yes, actually...
Systemic racism has gotten worse since Jim Crow.
Yes. So you want me to give you a stat? Black home ownership today is less than it was pre-Fair Housing Act of 1968. The schools are falling apart. The infrastructure is eroded. I think the ridiculous notion is for either one of you all to have the audacity to believe that you understand what the experience is to be.
I have to object to that.
But you just said
I cannot talk about it because I am not part of a group. I am a sentient human being.
Bill Maher didn't blink when Barry Sellers veered into race-baiting territory. Sellers claimed that people of a different color could never truly understand the Black American experience. But Maher wasn't buying it. He shot back with a bold truth: perspective isn't one way. Being too close to an issue can blur your vision just as much as being too far from it. Maher suggested that while Sellers is clearly passionate, he may be so immersed in the struggle narrative that he's lost the ability to zoom out and see the full picture. It was a gutsy, but necessary, reminder: understanding isn't dictated by skin color. Constantly filtering every debate through race doesn't bring clarity, it clouds it. Maher's pushback hit a deeper nerve. Proximity doesn't equal insight. And sometimes, it takes a step back to finally see what's really going on.
What I am saying though is for you to discount my father's experience and say that,
I'm not discounting it.
And to say it was silly.
I'm not.
No, he was.
No shit. No, but he's still alive. Like, he's right here. Like,
right, but the idea that if I were to say to you, as a Jew, that the experience of Jews in the United States today is worse than the experience of Jews in Europe in 1939, I would not be stating accurately.
Correct.
It's not true. It's also not true to say that the experience of black people in America in 2024 is worse on a general level than the experience of black men in 1954 in Alabama.
Here's the uncomfortable truth: a lot of today's so-called race experts have built entire careers and bank accounts on the idea that America is irredeemably racist. Their influence, their income, their entire brand depends on keeping that narrative alive. So of course, they twist facts, exaggerate stories, and stir outrage to protect the empire. Because if the conversation ever shifted to acknowledge real progress, their platform and their paychecks would vanish overnight. But let's be real, black lives in America today are undeniably better than they were decades ago. Doors that were once nailed shut are now open. We've seen black mayors, governors, senators, billionaires, CEOs, and yes, a two-term black president. That doesn't mean there aren't challenges, but pretending nothing has changed? That's not advocacy, that's dishonesty. And deep down, even they know it. But progress doesn't pay when your power comes from grievance. So the left keeps clinging to hollow slogans, race-baiting, and virtue signaling, ignoring both the real progress and the real problems. Bill Maher's pushback cut through the noise. Empty narratives can't replace substance. America has moved forward. The problem is, Democrats can't admit it, because their power depends on pretending we haven't. That's it for today's video. If you got value from this, hit that like button, subscribe, and drop your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.